Welcome back to Your Wise Self with Sarah. Today, I am joined by my guest, Sarah Fleming. She is a licensed social worker with 20 years of experience, including 13 years in private practice as a mental health therapist, coach, and clinical supervisor. She integrates EFT tapping, expressive arts, Feng Shui, and traditional talk therapy to support clients holistically on their healing path. Sarah has focused her passion on helping people create harmonious, nurturing homes that enhance creativity and well-being. She lives in Ames, Iowa with her husband, 2 children, and a small menagerie of animals. Welcome, Sarah. It's so great to have you back on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
It's exciting to dive back into this topic of healing our homes and our sacred spaces. But first, I have to know what the small menagerie of animals includes at your home.
Well, I think at the time that I wrote that, we have a German Shepherd and we have guinea pigs and we have fish. And I actually had rescued a baby mouse that I was taking care of. And so we don't have that little guy anymore. So yeah, just the other ones. But we see a lot of wildlife. And so I have the resource center here on speed dial because we're always seeing wildlife that needs help in the woods.
If you could have any animals or a small hobby farm, what would you have?
I would say horses for sure. And then I love pigs. I have heart for pigs. I don't know. I just think they're wonderful creatures.
Yes, absolutely.
More dogs.
Of course, yes, for sure, more dogs.
Yeah.
Bring all the dogs. But yes, and horses are so healing too in their own way. Have you done some research in that area or your own practice with horses?
Yeah, I actually did an equine therapy training about 4 months ago. And they're just very honest. So I had to really check in with my own energy because I knew this horse was going to give back to me the truth. There's no faking. It's a very good exercise in checking what you're bringing forward to the world.
Wow.
And then just how majestic they are, how grounding that can be just standing next to them or putting your hand on one of them. And the deep breath that you take just from their presence is incredible.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm curious what the truth reflected back to you. What does that look like with a horse?
Well, this horse in particular, the story was that he had bitten people and that he had a history of trauma. And so my job was to walk into the corral and stand next to him. And so I had to work through the fears that I had of being bitten or of being kicked. I didn't know how he would respond. And I just wanted to bring loving kindness to him and really work through any fears that I had. Yeah. A great exercise and just being in my heart. Yeah. That's where they want to be. Like the horses want to be. They don't know how to fake it.
You had to have been a little bit nervous going in there, not knowing what the reaction was going to be, but everything went fine.
Everything went fine. I was able to brush him eventually and feed him. And I just kept taking really deep breaths. And the German Shepherd that we have, we're actually rehabbing her. She's from the shelter and also was from an abusive situation. So that's been daily energy checks for me about my presence with her and bringing leadership and calm to her. So even before this horse experience, I feel like I had already put some of that into practice as we're trying to rehab her to believe that the world is safe.
Oh, that's so neat. I love this. Maybe we need to do a whole nother podcast episode just on animal therapy. That's a fun little segue into our conversation today. So thank you for sharing about that. For listeners who may be joining us for the first time or hearing from you for the first time, would you introduce yourself and tell a little bit more about the work that you do?
Yeah, so I've been in private practice for 13 years. And before that, I worked in schools, in jails, in homes, in clinics. But I always really wanted to do therapy, private practice. I wanted to kind of be my own boss. I have an entrepreneur streak. I wanted to be able to make changes on my own when needed and set my own schedule. Flexibility is a really big value of mine, especially with kids. And so, yeah, I focus 18 and older is the age group that I see a lot of college students. My husband's a professor, so we end up living in college towns, which is great. I work with people holistically. I believe that there's so many ways to heal. So we'll look at diets, we'll look at creativity, music, or art as ways to process, journaling, moving your body, along with more traditional things, cognitive behavioral, or DBT, things about just understanding the brain specifically. And then I also do EFT tapping. And then recently started working with people in their homes about setting their physical space up as another way to heal and to be supported.
Well, today we are going to dive into a little bit more about EFT tapping, which I'm really looking forward to because I have had the opportunity to experience that with you briefly. But let's talk a little bit about you're part of Your Wise Year, though you and I met through a program that I provided at a local workshop here in Iowa. And you and I met and the synergy just was flowing and what you're doing with Feng Shui and helping people heal in their homes and what I'm doing with Your Wise Self and with Your Wise Year was very compatible in terms of sharing what you're doing because it's such a unique approach that you don't hear about very often. And the fact that you have taken the time and done the work to go back to school and get your Feng Shui certification and then take this into people's home to help them heal.
I'm just sensitive to environments in general. So I'm always kind of picking up cues. But then I also kind of in the last podcast talked about a huge declutter that I went through and how healing that was for me, how my breathing was deeper and how I just felt more creative and really thinking about, I don't talk to people about their homes. This is where they're spending most of their time. And it's actually not just homes, it's office environments too, or just kind of environments in general. And so I thought this could be another tool, another thing that if I can figure out really how to support them, which is what led to the Feng Shui certification that I want to do, that can be the low hanging fruit for people where they can make change in their physical space to feel better on the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is so important. And people don't even really realize how important it is until maybe they work with you and they get the opportunity to start that decluttering process and understand that everything is energy. And so having the stack of books by our bed or our cell phones next to our bed, just the little adjustments that people can make. It might be just cleaning out that junk drawer and then moving to something bigger and bigger. And you've definitely inspired me. And I've been doing some decluttering. And I think I might have even said this on the last podcast episode that one of the tricks that I have loved is the black garbage bags. That's a small thing, but it's so big because I have just been using them and whatever goes in there, I can't look at it again. It's gone.
So yeah, no second guessing.
Yes, exactly. So then I started to create Your Wise Year, brought you into the mix and asked that you are part of that. We're getting ready to have your masterclass on April 1st and wanting to let people know more about Your Wise Year and what to expect from your masterclass. But first, let's just talk about Your Wise Year from the big picture. I'm curious what you have experienced so far being a part of that program.
Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of it and just giving me a forum to share what I'm learning and what I'm passionate about. And I think that's true for all of the teachers that are there. And there's such a diversity of topics, but it's all under this umbrella of healing and holistic healing. And every masterclass, there's been takeaways that have been very applicable right away, very accessible. And I think everybody that's there is intellectually curious, not just the teachers, but the learners, the participants. We're all there with intellectual curiosity and this belief that there's an abundance of ways to heal. And with that openness, I think that creates that synergy of excitement and hope and hopefulness. And we're needing so much hopefulness right now. So it's been a beautiful place, of gentle souls. Even with Scarlett last night, I could listen to her forever. Yes. She's just this wise soul that has so much to give. And I feel that about all of the teachers.
Thank you for sharing. And I'm happy that I've had the opportunity to invite so many amazing people to be a part of this process because I do feel like we have a great team and a great group of people that are creating a space for sharing their own gifts. But it is funny how it is interweaving between the topics and how applicable they can be in our lives. I really wanted it to be a whole year of support so people can tune into the masterclass every month, the first Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. I've been telling people, you can be in your jammies, grab a hot cup of tea, just relax and listen to the message, have a notebook ready. And then have the opportunity to get to work on something that is calling to you that month. And now we're going to take these practices and apply them. So tell us a little bit about what would one expect from the masterclass.
We all have a place that we call home. And for some people, it's more transient. For other people, we've been there for a really long time. And I think home it's connected to our identity. And especially in this midlife place, there's a lot of identity shifts that are happening within ourself and within our family. And so it's this idea of being really intentional about how your home is set up and how your home can hold you well and support you through these shifts. Even in my therapy practice, I like doing a lot of educating about why our brain and our body do certain things because it helps remove the shame. It helps remove labels that are not helpful. And so I want to provide education about the mind and the body, the responses that it gives, the stories that we hold, and then really teach them tools so that people are resourced to then go into their home and start making the changes that they're wanting to make.
Yeah. And I think too, it creates the opportunity for people to understand that they're not alone. And I don't know what it is. And maybe you can say from a therapeutic standpoint, but I think there's just aspects of our lives that sometimes we feel we're alone in something. I know when I had my extreme anxiety, I felt I was very alone in that and didn't know that anybody could understand that. And I think that even when you apply that similar concept to our homes,
I think, shame breeds in the dark. So when we are feeling alone, we're much less likely to take action, to do the thing that we're wanting to do. And then it's just this vicious cycle that is created. So when someone says, me too, or someone says, I get that, I'm struggling also, it breathes life into this old story that we've been living and we've been operating out of. And it's often connected to an old wound. And so for someone to say, you're not alone, me too, let's do this together, that support is the bolster that we need to be able to think, okay, what's the next step that I want to take?
Yes, absolutely. When considering those old wounds, something that might surprise listeners, and you've alluded to this idea that our homes and our nervous system is actually deeply connected. So can you unpack that a little bit more for us and what's really going on there?
Yeah, so our homes are a great reinforcer for good or bad. And so we have a story, we have loops, and our home is reinforcing that either way. And that's why vacations are so powerful, is because our eyes see new things. We come back and we're refreshed and we're inspired. And we're like, this thing doesn't feel so hard anymore. Or I feel lightness about this thing that I had heaviness about before the vacation. And it's the same thing with rearranging a room. You walk in and you're, this is great. And there's something about that called neurobics. And it's exercises for your brain so that it works differently. And the neuroplasticity, I believe, divine design that we've been given to change the way our brains work. And when you are treating mental illness or you're working toward mental health, you want to change the way your brain is working. And so changing your environment forces the brain to work differently. And then we have new synapses that form and we have new ways of thinking. And I think specifically to the nervous system and how that's affected it's very real, the way our homes and nervous system are connected. And there's a lot of research around that now. Specifically, clutter increases cortisol. And like I talked about last time, when clutter is there and present, it's unstable. And so our nervous system receives that message of instability. Poor lighting affects our mood and it decreases productivity. And sometimes poor lighting actually doesn't allow us to rest either, especially with bright lights at night. They're not restful. Other ways are noise can dysregulate our nervous system. Lack of private spaces can increase stress. And these are not superficial things. These are actually very physiological.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I want to go back to, you mentioned about the mental illness component. And I think that it's important to note that one of the statistics, I've actually recently been looking at this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 1 in 5 adults have some sort of mental illness or mental kind of issue or concern. So that can range from that anxiety or ADHD all the way into a larger level concern that could be schizophrenia or things like that. So when we talk about mental illness, I think that it's important for people to realize that it's really even encompassing everyday things that we hear about, ADHD and anxiety and that type of thing. And then you talked about being a sensitive person, sensitive to light, sensitive to textures, sensitive to sounds, those types of things. I learned that from you too, that that's something that it's not a diagnosis, but it's just a personality trait, right? Is that how you would describe it? Understanding that it's okay who we are and normalizing some of these things. And then having the space to work with you to bring in greater healing. So there's that connection between these mental states, stress and anxiety and grief, and our ability to be able to organize and declutter or create new systems in our home. Can you share more about that for the audience?
Yeah, I think there is a lot going on in the brain, and we all have these old stories that we carry. So stories are a part of it. But then in the brain specifically, when you look at executive function struggles, the executive function is where we go when we're wanting to plan and to organize, to start tasks. This is all happening in the prefrontal cortex. And if the executive functioning is overloaded or impaired, you can know what you want to do and even know how to do it, but then really struggle to follow through with it. And the people that experience these executive function problems are people that are trying to manage ADHD or manage depression, or they're in a depressive episode. It's also people who are experiencing stress or burnout. So that executive functioning piece is a big part of why we can't move forward. Another part is dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter. It's both a neurotransmitter and a hormone. And it's produced in the brain and it acts like a chemical messenger between the nerve cells. So when we have low or dysregulated dopamine, it can make tasks cleaning, organizing, or maintaining. It can make those tasks very difficult, and we can actually almost feel frozen to move forward with them. If our brain is perceiving the home task as too big, this means that the stress system or the fear center of our brain, which is the amygdala, that's activated. And when that's activated, we generally go to that fight, flight, or freeze. So if we're perceiving this as too much, it's too overwhelming, we're going to avoid, we're going to procrastinate, we're just going to shut down. And then this creates this cycle of I want this nice home, or I want this home where I feel safe, this home I love, but then I feel overwhelmed. And then I avoid it. And then my home gets worse. And then I feel more overwhelmed. And so it's this vicious cycle that if we're not understanding what's happening, we continue in it. And then I think lastly is the decision fatigue that people feel. So there are hundreds of micro decisions that go into decluttering, or even just trying to figure out what do I want on my counter?
Yes.
What do I need on my kitchen table? Things like that. So it's things like, where do things go? Or what do I keep? When do I clean? What do I throw away? And so when the brain is tired, it's going to be much more likely to shut down. And then we're going to feel that shame again, or those labels of I'm lazy. And the reason I really want to talk about this is because these are actual physiological things, neurological things happening to us. It isn't our morality. It isn't because I'm bad or because I'm lazy. There's actual things, there's functions that are happening that are causing this.
The other component that really plays into this is the women, or primarily my audience, is going to tend to be middle-aged women who are in perimenopause, that whole phase of life. And their hormones are fluctuating, and more than likely they have been dysregulated by overfunctioning for years and years, taking care of everyone else. And so this freezing or thawing of sorts is happening ultimately as a result. And so they can really relate to what you're talking about and understanding what they want their home to be like, and yet they're finding it incredibly hard to get there or maintain it. And getting to your point of saying that there's not something wrong with them, that the deeper that they understand this, the maybe the more that they can help themselves regulate. And then I'll work with someone like you who can walk them through the smaller steps of getting their home in a healing space.
Yeah, I think one of the big things when we're going through these hormonal changes is what feels like a haven to me. Because if we haven't gotten a good night's sleep, because they're hot flashes or whatever we're experiencing, if we have children that are leaving the home and we're grieving, if we have the brain fog, how do I set my home up to care for me well? as I'm moving through these shifts. And I think a lot of times less is more here, to give yourself less things to have to care for. So that's where the simplifying comes in. If you're feeling tired, if you're feeling drained, give yourself the gift of bringing less in so that you have less to care for. That is a way to be very kind to yourself. Is less is more, to be able to simplify.
Yes, absolutely. The practices I really tried to instill is, if I bring anything into my home, there's something that has to leave. And especially with regard to clothes. And I even went to Target the other day and walked out of there with not one single thing, because I went in there for something specifically and they didn't have it. And I still did not buy anything. And I was so proud of myself.
Good for you. Does that feel good?
Yes. Yes. So I was like, I don't need anything you have today, Target.
Nice try.
There's this role of perfectionism that can come into play, this all or nothing thinking. And you've alluded to that as well. I think so many women, of course, can put off creating this beautiful space or this haven that you mentioned because they want to do it right or 100%. And so what would you say to the woman who's struggling with that?
Well, I think awareness of our thoughts is really powerful. The mindfulness of, I noticed I just had a thought that because I can't do this all today, I shouldn't do anything at all. So just being aware of what your mind is doing, it's probably thoughts that have been there for a long time, these thoughts of perfectionism. And perfectionism is one of the number one causes of anxiety. So it leads right to that place where you don't want to go. And I think even asking yourself these questions of, will I be glad a year from now that I started? That kind of opens up a different way of thinking. It doesn't have as much to do with exactly what you get done today or even how you do it. It's just kind of this overall idea that you're bringing in. And I think another thing is, how do I move the needle in a way that promotes wellness for me today? How do I move the needle in that direction? Again, you're getting away from, I'm going to do 4 hours and I'm going to get 2 boxes. You're moving away from these like analytical things that our brain doesn't really like and that actually lead to perfectionism, to just this overarching idea that can feel more spacious and more gracious about how we approach our home.
For having your masterclass on April 1st, it's spring. Do you think that there's something that people could do even just in a month time?
I think with anything, you want to get motion moving first. So if you're just standing in your kitchen and you're like, I am so overwhelmed, there's so much stuff on the counters, I don't even know where to start, open a window, open a door, and just let air start to flow in. What typically happens is once we're started, it's easier to keep going. Anything that you can show energetically moving, like you feel the wind, the air coming in, or you put music on, or you light a candle, these things are eliciting a sense of motion and traction, then it's easier to follow once that's happened.
Along those lines, you work with EFT tapping. So this air flow and movement just inspires me to touch on this topic. And I absolutely loved doing the brief practice with you. And I'm hoping that today we can do a practice for the audience, but also just share a little bit about that connection of what tapping does for the body, how it connects to this thoughtful space and what it does for the nervous system.
We were talking about, we don't think a thought in a vacuum or feel a feeling in a vacuum. It's almost always connected to something deeper and something else that we've carried. And that's the sense of overwhelm in our home. It usually means there was a time in our life where we felt overwhelmed for a long time without help and without tools. And so that's the story that we're carrying. It's not just the kitchen. It's something that happened when we were 5, something that happened when we were 12, and that energy is stored in our body. And so what the EFT tapping does, if you have a table that you're trying to knock over, you could start with any one of those legs and it's going to eventually knock it down. So we start with the immediate feeling and where that's held in our body, and we allow that energy to shift. And there's a rating scale that we use with EFT tapping. We rate it between 0 and 10. And it's a really good way to quantify how you're doing and how you're feeling. So maybe you're feeling overwhelmed at a 7 and we do some tapping. Maybe it goes up to a 9, but something shifted. It actually isn't overwhelm. It's sadness that was there. So then you start tapping on the sadness. And then with each round, you check in, how's that going? And you want to get it down to about a 2. Because when it's down to a 2, what's happened is the amygdala has calmed down and you are at a state where you can think about your next step. And I've been attending an EFT summit, and they're really talking about, there's 300 research articles out now talking about EFT, its efficacy. We've known it works for a long time, but haven't really been clear about why. There's a vascular duct system that can now be mapped, and it's the same system that Chinese medicine has used with acupuncture. It is indicating these points, these meridian points. These are the tapping points, or the points where a needle would be inserted for acupuncture. And when they inject these tracer dyes into this microscopic system, you can see the dye coagulate. And it's at these known acupuncture points, or the meridians. And the signal of tapping is transferred electrically through the body to tell the amygdala it's safe to be here. Oh. And so we turn the volume down on the overwhelm, or we turn the volume down on the stress, or that fight, flight, freeze state. Take a breath. And then we move up to this prefrontal cortex, and we can think, what is the next step that I want to take? We cannot think in that way if we're acting out of the amygdala system. So the EFT tapping not only regulates you and turns down the stress, but it turns on the executive functioning, the prefrontal cortex.
Wow, that's incredible. It's turning down the fear, turning down the stress, turning down all those things that are really loud in our system. And then we're able to take that next best step for ourselves.
Yeah, and it's a great tool. I think being resourced in your home, the things getting energy moving, or understanding, I need a friend to encourage me, or I need to have lots of snacks. Resourcing yourself, having a plan for moving through your home. And EF tapping is one that I use with every client when I've gone into their home. And it's always emotional. Our home are always emotional. So that's why we want to be working with the emotion. And that's what the tapping does.
Would you be willing to take us through a practice? And so we might have people watching or listening. So I think you are going to just walk through a little bit in a process of sharing how it works.
Yeah. So then the different meridian points that we're going to tap on, and they run on both sides of our body. So you can tap with both hands, or you can just tap with one. But we're going to start with the side of the hand, and I'll guide you through all of this. So we'll say some things with the side of the hand to really address the emotion. And then we'll continue that through the tapping points. And the tapping points are going to be on, I'll just say the inside, or maybe I'll say bridge of nose. The bridge of nose, kind of the beginning of where your eyebrow starts. So the bridge of nose, and then the temple, and then under the eye, under the nose, the chin, the collarbone, and then the side.
Okay.
So this is just kind of like right under our armpit. I'm just going to address common things that I hear with my clients when it comes to their homes. And I just kind of incorporated it into one big tapping session here. And then you'll just repeat after me.
Okay. I'm excited.
Okay. All right. Side of the hand. Even though my home doesn't feel peaceful right now.
Even though my home doesn't feel peaceful right now.
Even though I feel overstimulated in my space.
Even though I feel overstimulated in my space.
I'm open to creating safety within myself.
I'm open to creating safety within myself.
Even though this clutter feels heavy.
Even though this clutter feels heavy.
Even though letting go feels scary.
Even though letting go feels scary.
I choose to release what no longer supports me.
I choose to release what no longer supports me.
Even though I carry so much responsibility in this home.
Even though I carry so much responsibility in this home.
Even though I feel unseen in all that I manage.
Even though I feel unseen in all that I manage.
My needs matter too.
My needs matter too.
Even though I feel like my home has to look a certain way.
Even though I feel like my home has to look a certain way.
Even though I find myself comparing my home to others.
Even though I find myself comparing my home to others.
I choose peace over this perfection.
I choose peace over this perfection. And I'm still tapping the side of my hand.
Yeah, still side of the hand. Yep.
Yep.
Even though this room holds hard memories.
Even though this room holds hard memory.
Even though this space has triggered emotions.
Even though this space has triggered emotion.
I choose to create new energy here.
I choose to create new energy here.
I honor how hard I've been trying.
I honor how hard I've been trying.
I cannot wait to create a home that nourishes me.
I cannot wait to create a home that nourishes me.
I choose to meet myself with compassion.
I choose to meet myself with compassion.
Okay, so now we'll go up to the eyebrow. Sometimes my home feels like a reflection of my stress.
Sometimes my home feels like a reflection of my stress.
Side of your eye, there's so much to manage here.
There's so much to manage here.
Under your eye, there's so many responsibilities.
There's so many responsibilities.
Under your nose, I don't know where to start.
I don't know where to start.
Chin, I feel like I'm behind.
I feel like I'm behind.
Collarbone, I feel so overstimulated.
I feel so overstimulated.
Underarm, sometimes I just want peace and quiet.
Sometimes I just want peace and quiet.
Top of head, and it feels hard to know where to even start.
And it feels hard to even know where to start.
Eyebrow, sometimes my body reacts before I can even think.
Sometimes my body reacts before I can even think.
Side of eye, the clutter, the noise, the tension.
The clutter, the noise, the tension.
Under eye, it all adds up.
It all adds up.
Under nose, no wonder I feel so tired.
No wonder I feel so tired.
Chin, no wonder I feel so overwhelmed.
No wonder I feel so overwhelmed.
Collarbone, I've been in survival mode.
I've been in survival mode.
Underarm, I am doing the best that I can.
I'm doing the best that I can.
Top of head, and I choose gentleness with myself.
And I choose gentleness with myself.
Eyebrow, in this moment.
In this moment.
Side of eye, I am safe.
I am safe.
Under eye, in this moment.
In this moment.
Under nose, I can soften my shoulders.
I can soften my shoulders.
Chin, I can unclench my jaw.
I can unclench my jaw.
Collarbone, I can take a deep breath.
I can take a deep breath.
Underarm, I can settle down my own nervous system.
I can settle down my own nervous system.
Top of head, even just a little.
Even just a little.
Okay, eyebrow, last one. I'm excited to see what I create in my home.
I'm excited to see what I create in my home.
Side of eye, I'm excited to resource myself well.
I'm excited to resource myself well.
Under eye, I get to bring creativity into this process.
I get to bring creativity into this process.
Under nose, I get to move the energy around.
I get to move the energy around.
Chin, I am so capable of this.
I am so capable.
Collarbone, I am so lovable and capable for this.
I am so lovable and capable for this.
Side, I cannot wait to see what I create.
I cannot wait to see what I create.
Top of head, I will stay present and in tune with myself as I move forward.
I will stay present and in tune with myself as I move forward.
Right. And you just want to kind of shake out anything that you want to invite to leave.
Yeah.
Really allow your chest to soften, to take a belly breath that can activate our vagus nerve to remind us that we're safe. We're safe to expand. We're safe to create. We're safe to bring forth what we want to bring forth.
I felt myself completely soften through the process.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally palpable within my body, the release that I was feeling with each flow that was going through, and the pure relaxation and belief. What I love about it is our mind and body have to be on the same wavelength because they are connected, as we know. It wasn't that long ago that the biomedical model told us that it was separate, but we know that they flow together. So our body speaks our mind, and vice versa too. Our body is going to have an impact on our mind as well. Bringing that together was just a beautiful feeling and just very peaceful. So thank you. Would that be something you would go through typically with a client also in their space when you're working with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I almost always start with EFT tapping, even before we tour the home. I'll go through that with them because I think if this If the reason that people haven't been able to move forward is something I'm overwhelmed, what happens is we clench. Our body clenches with that. And even our breathing is restricted. And so what the tapping does, you're saying it softens. It's you're able to say what you're feeling while creating a sense of being grounded.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, the feeling can just be there. You roll out the red carpet for your feelings. You just let them be there. You're not restricting them. You're not minimizing them. You're not denying them. But you're also not allowing them to be the loudest voice. They just get to be there with all of your other feelings, and they will not overtake you. And that the tapping is the grounding that reminds the amygdala that it's okay. It's okay to be safe, and that it's not back in that place of overwhelm. It's now, and that you can move forward now with who you are and what you know.
Back in that present moment, present awareness. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that guided practice. That was such a treat. And I know the audience is going to love it too. So as we move into the masterclass that will be on April 1st, it's already been very inspirational today, but you're going to continue to inspire the people who have signed up for this, who have committed to this level of awareness that they want to bring into 2026. And people will get started with those next steps. Is there anything that you want to share, or do you want to keep it sacred for the masterclass?
I think just to normalize how common it is. And I do wish it was something that people talked about more, how much our homes affect us. And that's part of why this conversation is so important to have, and to understand why their brain and body are doing things. And I think we are more than our thoughts. We are more than our feelings. And to move forward in the wholeness of who we are and learning to interpret some of the signals that we're getting, that maybe we're not in danger. We think that we are, that we can hold overwhelm in a different way and move forward with it. I think a lot of people are like, I'm going to wait till I don't feel overwhelmed anymore and then start. But that isn't actually how it works. We move forward, containing it and holding it in a different way.
It's interesting. We oftentimes bring with us things that we're still healing. And it's kind of like the same point of saying we don't have to be completely healed to heal our home. We're healing as we are healing our home as well. The collaborative process that goes hand in hand.
Yeah. And that we can move forward together hand in hand. Yeah, we're not, if we have any of these old stories that we're alone in this, no, we have this network of people that we can reach out to and give us that encouragement that we need to move forward.
Yes, absolutely. As we close, is there anything else or any one thing that you would want people listening to know about their homes and their healing?
Yeah, I think we don't trust ourselves enough. When the thing in your kitchen is bothering you, there's a reason for it. Like, listen to that. When there's something in our house that we don't love, that's less than excellent, we can move forward with that. And those thoughts keep coming up for a reason. And to be able to trust yourself in that. What's the information that's been given to you about how you want to live, how you want your home to be, and to trust in that intuition that we have, that there's a reason behind that. Our nervous system knows what it needs to feel safe, and to be able to tune in and listen to that.
Yes, the inner knowing, and the whole premise behind my business name of Your Wise Self. It's all within us, and it's just a process of having people like yourself or me as a health coach, a community of people to help us draw those out or remind us of who we are and that we can trust ourselves. I'm so grateful to have you a part of Your Wise Year. And where can people find you?
So my therapy website is sarahflemingcounseling.com, and it's Fleming with one M. And then my house specific website is eddierowhouse.com, ETTIERO house.com.
I'll make sure that people know how they can find you and connect with you. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Sarah. I always love talking with you. Thank you for all you're doing with this forum and all you've brought together.
My pleasure.
If today's conversation lit something inside of you, I want to invite you to go deeper with Sarah inside Your Wise Year. Her masterclass, The Home That Heals, is available inside the program, and is exactly the kind of thoughtful, soul-level, practical work that Your Wise Year was built for. You can learn more and join us at yourwiseselfwithsarah.com/ your wise year. And of course, if you want to connect with Sarah directly, explore her work, or find out how she can support you, head to her website that is in the show notes. As always, thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode moved you, share it with a woman in your life who needs it. Leave a review if you haven't. It means more to me than you know and helps this podcast reach the women who are ready for this work. Until next time, come home to yourself. Your wise self is always waiting.